They're all saving one, or most of the Hampshire fielders are saving one. Somerset need one run. It's Edwards to Hildreth. He's there and bowls Hildreth, and he gets the run away through the onside, and Somerset have won. They've won the Royal London One Day Cup.
Good evening, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd, and joining me this evening I've got Dan Kingdom, who is looking slightly bleary-eyed after watching Somerset yesterday afternoon live at Old Trafford. Somerset CCC's digital guru Ben Warren, and the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset, Anthony Gibson, who also had the misfortune of being in attendance yesterday watching the slightly farcical scenes that unfolded at Old Trafford. Ben, I gather you sent Todd up there to...
No, we were at Taunton doing the...
right, okay.
So, which is far more entertaining.
Yes, so. Definitely. Well, we definitely get onto that later. But shall we talk about what went on yesterday afternoon? Then, if you've been under a rock, basically Somerset batted the whole of the fourth day with no prospect of a result. James Rew did complete his second 100 in the match. I thought he played really well to survive the devastating spell with a second new ball from Dane Villis and Stephen Croft. Which really kind of summed it up. Lots of discussion on social media about what was going on. My thoughts were, if we're not going to win the match, what's the point of risking the bowlers? Let's make sure 100% everybody's fit for Lords. You know, they had a tiring last day at trying to get those last few Northants wickets on Sunday. Trip up to Old Trafford, trip back to Taunton, then a trip up to Lords for Thursday. Obviously, people disagree. Dan, you were there for the proceedings. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said is probably, I think, must be Somerset's thinking. But yeah, I mean, I was sat there, after lunch thinking, we seem to be batting a bit slowly. Aldridge not really scoring any runs. And I was thinking that we, surely we'll be declaring at some point. But I think the realisation slowly dawns that we sort of got past the point of being safe, and the realisation is slowly dawning, like, hang on, we aren't actually declaring here, are we? Because I was sort of getting a bit, I knew that the win was always very unlikely, but I still was, anticipating us having a go, a bit of excitement, maybe get a couple of early wickets, and I'd tweet an eyes emoji and be, but I mean, clearly it was always very likely to be a draw. I think at the start of the day, that's the thing. We can complain all we want now, and it's generated so much debate, but at the end of the day it probably would have been a draw regardless. But I do think we should have had a go. I think we should have declared around sort of 2:30ish and had a go with the new ball, and if we weren't taking wickets, then we could have then just sort of brought on the part-timers to sort of see us out till 5 o'clock. And then that would have everyone would have been happy enough, I think. The players would have been satisfied that they had a go. The fans would be happy. We wouldn't have been, debating. There wouldn't be all this debate. I think we would know that we had tried everything, to win. And I think a lot of fans are unhappy that we've sort of gone against, like this so-called, Somerset spirit of always trying to win, So, that was always forgotten yesterday, I think, wasn't it? We, Andy Hurrey talks about it in the pre-season press conferences and stuff. We always want to win every single match, and we effectively did stop trying to win, even though it was only a 1% chance of winning. We probably should have had a go, I think. But I do see their logic for sure. There's definitely a logic in preserving the bowlers for next week, as you were just saying. I just wish we had a go, just to keep everyone happy, and I think just to minimise the sort of deflated feeling that we're all feeling right now. And I think the players probably possibly feeling it too. I bet Craig Overton would have wanted to have a go, see what happens. He's a fierce competitor.
Well, he was having a go at the at Ben's counterpart up at Lancashire on their social media, tweeting that I bet you lot of fun at parties or something like that, and then a very bored gif of that fella from the American Office. 246 in 66, I think, would have been the target had they declared at lunch, which probably wouldn't have been enough, because essentially you talk about
it wouldn't have been enough because we didn't score fast enough.
Well, that's true.
Between Tom Abel being out and lunch on the last day, we scored 110 runs in 37 and a half overs. I mean, we needed to show.
Oh, Gibbo's frozen. He's frozen mid-rant. We'll come back to you, Gibbo. I was just going to say, Dan, you sort of talked about going back to the part-time bowlers, but we haven't really got any. If Abel can't bowl and Lammonby can't bowl, you're then into the sort of who have you got left? You've got Bartlett, who bowls a bit of his bits and pieces off spin. You've got, I don't know if TKC bowls or not, and then that's kind of really it. I mean, I suppose you could always bowl Leach from one end to dry things up, but if you did sort of set them any sort of target, it's kind of one that they could have gone for the sort of 20, 30 overs, scoring at 10 and over against, like you say, the part-timers. So you'd almost be forced to bring the big quicks back on, which we wouldn't have really wanted to do. Gibbo, you've relocated to an area of Casadale, Gibbo, with a bit better Wi-Fi by the looks of it. Do you want to carry on?
What I was saying is that, if we needed to set them a target of, say, 370 overs, the 350 and 90 was never on. There was never enough overs. Lancashire would have had to bowl their joke bowlers right from the start to let Somerset get a lead of 350 in the time available. So that was never on. Whether that was the offer that was made, I don't know. But that's what Craig Overton sort of tweeted. But it just doesn't add up mathematically. But it could have been in our own hands if we'd gone a bit faster after Tom Abel was out on Saturday evening. As I said, I mean, we scored, I can't remember, I've got a piece of paper now, 110 in 37.3 overs, something like that. And quite rightly, Glenn Chappell picked up on that and said that, Somerset never lifted the pace of their innings. Once Tom Abel was out, the shutters went down, and we made no attempt to put ourselves in a position where we had a realistic chance of bowling Lancashire out. And it wasn't Somerset cricket's greatest day, in all honesty. Yesterday, it was all a bit embarrassing, and I saw the players finding out the dressing room at the end of the day, and they all looked a bit shamefaced and down in the mouth. And it was in our own hands to set a target and see what we could do, and we bottled it, frankly, and that's a shame.
I think what Craig, when describing the offer, I think when the offer was put on the table, it was when Lancashire was still batting in the first innings. So I think what they were trying to contrive was Lancashire declaring even further behind.
Yeah, but they still have batting points to get. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, well, I think that was what when the offer was done, was when Lancashire was still batting. So I think that they were trying to see whether Lancashire would forego their first innings to give Somerset enough of a chance to get enough of a lead, to have enough overs to then bowl out. But yeah, I think obviously both parties are not necessarily that happy with what happened yesterday. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. What you're saying there, but is the Somerset bowlers and the management have looked at the pitch and go, well, we probably need a day to bowl Lancashire out on this, and then kind of working back from there. What would Lancashire probably score in a day? Probably 300 if they bat all day. So that's going to be more or less kind of the starting point for negotiations. And at the end of the day, I don't think. Yeah, but the best will in.
If you were Andy Hurry and Glenn Chappell made you that offer, you forego batting points, put on the joke bowlers, allow us to score at 7 or 8 runs and over to set you a target of 350 in 90 overs. I mean, would you accept that offer?
No, I mean, you may try and negotiate it down to maybe, I don't know, something like 380 or something like that. But
we could have set them 380 if we'd batted with more determination and aggression in the second innings. I've just worked it out. 370 if we'd gone at 5 runs and over after Tom Abel was out, we could have set them 370 overs, which would have been a reasonable target. and give us a reasonable chance of bowling them out.
So at close on day 3, Somerset were 114 for 3 off 28.2 overs. That day was curtailed with the loss of George Bartlett to the last ball of the day. So going along at about just a shade over 4 and over, which isn't that bad. It's not sluggish by any means.
The runs dried up after Abel was out. When Tom Abel was there was a real sense of intent, and Tom Lammonby came out of his shell for once and started playing some good shots alongside it. But once Abel was out, that all went out the window.
We were looking to save the draw first, weren't we? I think we once Abel was out, we were like, right, okay, let's make sure we draw here. I think
exactly
that's what happened. We'd have looked like idiots if we, tried to keep scoring quickly, scored 5 or 6 and over, and then got bowled out quickly, and then Lancashire would have, could have chased it down. So I understand why they slowed down, but it's the fact that we slowed down and stayed slowed down, and then just never even tried is the issue, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, could you potentially change the regulations in the championship so the two captains can shake hands earlier on the fourth day? I don't know. I mean, I suppose you'd have been a bit pissed off, Dan, if you made the trip up there and you'd seen Tom Abel shaking hands at 2:00. I mean, at least you got to watch some cricket, I suppose, even though it was.
Yeah, I just bring it forward to say tea or. Yeah, tea I think would be a reasonable time to say, actually, if both captains are happy to call it off, because, I was ready to go. I was there for days to be ample. I was ready to go as soon as the joke bowling started, really, so wouldn't have missed much.
Yeah, so that notwithstanding, and I did tweet this slightly tongue-in-cheek yesterday, if you'd have said that Somerset will bat the final day to secure a draw after being 12 for 3 after 20-25 minutes on day 1, I think most people would have bitten your hand off. But James Rew again. Sky's the limit.
Yeah. He was dropped twice. He was dropped twice in the first innings in the slips.
Everybody was dropped twice in that innings. I think Tom Lammonby was dropped twice early on.
Well. Yeah, I mean, he's a very, very, very good player. And he's still young, and as you say, the sky's the limit. And it was a superb innings because, Somerset were. I said to Paul Edwards, who was reporting it for the Times, when I had a bit of time off on the first day and they were 30 for 3, I said, we'll be bowled out for 60. And because, I mean, that would be, that's the sort of the recent record of the top order batting, although probably would have been rescued by the lower order again. And the fact that we weren't, Lammonby batted with great determination and skill as well, because it was really, really difficult. The first session, the ball was moving around. Anderson was bowling as well as we all know he can, and to get from 12 for 3 to 361 was a notable effort. It was just a pity that having made that effort, we didn't at least attempt to capitalise on it. We sort of settled for recovery without trying to go on to win the game, which is what, as Dan said just a few minutes ago, is Andy Hurry says, we want to win every game. Well, they didn't show much signs of it yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was just, I think once the realistic chance of bowling them out was gone, they just thought, well, let's keep the bowlers in cotton wool for Lords, which is a very, very winnable game starting on Thursday. We'll come on to that in a minute. What else about the Lancashire game? That shot that Tom Kohler-Cadmore played on the first morning. Is there a fine line between aggression and recklessness?
Yes, there is, and he should have. If he'd gone to hit it down the ground, he probably would have got it. Instead of which, he went down the pitch and then tried to cross bat it over deep mid wicket. That was the problem with it. Yeah. But I tell you what really encouraged me, and that was the Matt Henry and Craig Overton opening bowling partnership. Craig looked right back to his old self. Matt Henry is a really, really good bowler, and in combination, because they're different, with Overton hitting the pitch hard and Henry skidding it through. I asked Craig who was the quicker of them, And he said, "Well, Henna's probably, but my bouncer is quicker." and I think that's a really good sign that fast bowlers hunt best in pairs. And I think we've got a pair now of really top class fast bowlers, and that is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, Craig Overton returning figures of 4 for 52 in Lancashire's only innings, comfortably his best return of the season. Henry 4 for 73 on debut. The only other wicket taker was Jack Leach, who bowled very economically for his 1 for 57.
Well too. Jack Leach bowled very well.
Yeah, from 24 overs. No wickets for Josh Davey or Casey Aldridge. Have you had much chance to catch up with Matt Henry, Ben, at the ground this week?
We got about 10 minutes with him before he was on. He was straight in and straight on the bus that left 9 o'clock on Wednesday. And so we weren't at Old Trafford this week, so I haven't had too much time to chat. But no, he seems to have settled in really well from what I hear. He's he bowled really well, didn't he? I think he's always going to be someone who challenges both outside edge and inside edge. He's not scared of pitching the ball up. And he's a very attacking bowler, and I think his record in domestic cricket in the UK is excellent. And I think, like Anthony was saying, I think that once you add in Craig Overton with his height into that kind of combination, it is going to be a real challenge. And let's just hope that Craig Overton and Matt Henry can stay fit. Because I think if they play together for the games that they're scheduled to play, Matt Henry, they're going to be a really good partnership. And I think when you add in Peter Siddle and Lewis Gregory into that attack, it's going to be far stronger, I think.
Dan, we were bowling on Saturday, weren't we? What did you make of Matt Henry?
Yeah, he looked good. Yeah, I mean, he's clearly international quality. He's got pace. He can bowl short balls. As Ben said, he's not scared to pitch it up. Took 4 for, and I think he will hopefully continue in that vein. He was brilliant for Kent for them. Very very reliable wicket taker. So he's a top addition to our attack, and I hope that this week, if we have Gregory and Siddle back. Presumably Gregory will come back, and I would also bring Siddle back for sure. Then we'll basically have our strongest attack, won't we? I think so. As long as Leach is not withdrawn by England, so that should give us a really good chance at Lords, hopefully.
Is that a possibility? I heard somewhere that 4 out of 5 is what they were going to allow the centrally contracted players to play in this opening block of championship games. But he is a left arm spinner. He's not got a lot of miles on the clock in the last sort of month and a half or so.
It'd be interesting to see, but he has Leach has got a pretty good record at Lords. I remember him taking some wickets in the early season game when they last played in the championship there in 2021. But
got a few runs as well, didn't he? Him and Marchant.
He did. Yeah. Thank goodness, saved the day.
It did, yeah. Match winner, was it?
We were looking down the barrel there.
90 was it for the last wicket? Taking
89, I think. Yeah. 89.
Well, and Leach is 92 in the test was at Lords as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I think we're going to have Leach opening the batting in all of our teams, which we'll come to in a few moments for Thursday. Casey Aldridge seemed to take a little bit of a backward step with the ball late on in the Lancashire innings. He just seemed to sort of lose it a little bit. I mean, he looks sort of possibly the one who's going to be most vulnerable for Lords, but I think he's somebody we all really want to see kicking on. Now he's got all the attributes to be a top quality pace bowler, but he seems to be doing it more with the bat at the moment. Of course, maiden first class 100 in somewhat funny old circumstances on Sunday afternoon. Now averaging a princely 81 with the bat, so not too shabby at all. And looking to be a genuine all rounder in the making.
Yeah, it was interesting to see him coming in at 7 in the game. I think they obviously had that call when Lewis Gregory doesn't play, who steps up and bats 7, or do they potentially play an extra batter? But they've clearly gone to Casey and said, well, when Lewis is rested, you're on number 7, and they're going to back him. So, I think there's a lot to like, isn't there, about Casey Aldridge as a bowler? But I think it's just consistency, and that which will come. And I agree with Anthony about if he can just add an extra yard of pace.
That's what he needs.
certainly help because there's a lot to like about him. He's good in the field. He's very good, dynamic young cricketer, but he just needs to get to that next level, I think. And then he'll be a guy who can push on and take plenty of wickets in Division 1.
Yeah.
So he's looking the sort of the most vulnerable for Thursday.
Well, I think Josh Davey will give way as well.
I think he will.
As Ken says, Dan said, we'll play Gregory and Siddle, assuming they're both fit against Middlesex, and that is assuming Leach is available. That's our best attack.
Yep. Anything more on Lancashire then? I don't think there's much.
Well, I'd just say it was lovely to see Steve Davis back behind the stumps, and he took a couple of brilliant catches, and I hope he's given a second chance.
Well, my final word on Lancashire is after last week's podcast, Gibbo, I cannot believe that you read out on air that George Bell was the Lancashire under-14s high jump record holder. It was that boring, Gibbo. I was like, shall I?
Well, of course I read it out. We were desperate for something. We're tracking my son George's progress across Devon.
Oh, yeah. Is he, yeah, we saw that. How is he? Is he fitting well? And
oh, yeah, he's quite resilient. He said it was lovely to enjoy the Devon countryside. That's after 112 miles and 33 hours of running and walking across Devon.
Oh, it was coast. When you said it was coasting, I for some reason I thought
Wembury to Lynmouth. It was Wembury to Lynmouth.
In my head, it was a rowing race around from the south of Devon to Cornwall, but it was he took the shortest way, I suppose, as a crow flies. So. Happy days, yeah. And then Overton Senior chirping in as well. And sorry, I'll start a trend. It's now unless the cricket is so boring, please do not send fake stats into Anthony. It's my last one this season. I have promised.
Yeah, Mark Overton suggested he was Alexander Graham Bell's great grandson.
I nearly suggested that after this bowling spell they were going to rename the Anderson end to the anyway. Right. Moving on then. Lords, the home of cricket on Thursday in the County Championship. I'm going to start with my team, which also contains a very, very interesting point of debate. Opening the batting, I've got Tom Lammonby and James Rue. Adel 3, Bartlett 4, TKC 5, Banton at 6 with the gloves, and then Gregory, Siddle, Overton, Henry and Leach.
I'd vote for that. But I don't think we'll get it.
I don't think we'll get it. And if push came to shove and I was making the decision, I probably wouldn't pick that team if I was Jason Kerr, Tom Abel and Andy Hurry. But looking at James Rue, if you just chopped up a load of Somerset videos of Somerset players batting, took the score away from the bottom, showed them of someone who knew about cricket but didn't know about Somerset and said, which one of these players do you think should open the batting for us?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you heard it, but Luke Wells.
Yeah, I did hear that. Yeah, I heard you say that.
And that's exactly what he said. He said that he was very impressed with James Rue, and he said, it looks to me as if he's ideally equipped to open the innings. And but you're quite right. It would be a very, very tough ask to get him to open the innings and keep wicket. And he is a very good outfielder as well. And Tom Banton, I'd like to see being given his chance in the first team, because if he doesn't, sooner or later he's going to go elsewhere, which would be a great shame and a great loss. So yeah, I think that's a for you, Sheps, that's a very, very good call.
So yeah, I mean, it kills the two birds with one stone. Is we all want to get Tom Banton in the team, so giving him the gloves, sticking him down at 6. I wouldn't have Rue keeping and opening, and I don't think Steve Davis opening and keeping for was he 37, 38 now is a long term sort of sustainable ball. I did enjoy your tweet, Dan, about happy makeshift Steve Davis opener day. Seems to come around earlier every year.
It is the second earliest it's ever been this year.
How is it? Oh,
I think it was earliest. Yeah, I did tweet the date for each year. He's opened in every year for us except 2020.
Yeah, sorry I forgot to get you all a card, but if you'll have a word with Richard, Ben, and just get him to put him in the shop, I'm sure they'd be a hot seller for next year if it happens. But yeah, I mean I don't think they will. I think they will still go with Davis opening with Lammonby and keeping Rue down at 6. But yeah, something sort of medium to sort of medium term is something that I think they should potentially have their eye on, because to me it seems to kill, like I say, it kills two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Anything.
I think George Bartlett needs a break. He looked shot in the second innings. He was all over the place against Saqib Mahmood. I mean, he got out in the end. He got a good one, but
he's only been back for one game, Gibbo. It's difficult to see how you can give him. He needs a break.
Well, he honestly, against Saqib Mahmood, if you'd watched it, he was all over the shop, and this was when Lammonby and Abel had been playing more or less as they liked on a pretty flat pitch, and George, he didn't look as if he got any confidence. That's what I mean about being shot, and I think Lewis Goldsworthy deserves his chance in the middle order.
Yeah, I mean, Bartlett has been scoring a few runs in the seconds, more than Goldsworthy, which is probably what's got him in, as well as the fact that he played that first game ahead of Goldsworthy. So I presume he is ahead in that sort of nominal pecking order. Ben,
well, ask Dan. I mean, Dan saw Bartlett. What did you make of George Bartlett, Dan?
I mean, yeah, I agree. Yeah, he was clearly not, as comfortable as Abel and Lammonby on that third evening. Yeah, and it was. I didn't have full confidence in him seeing out that last over. Not going to lie. So yeah, and so it came to pass. But yeah, I'd absolutely bring in Goldsworthy as well. Goldsworthy is someone who he helped see off 3 collapses last year, twice against Lancashire Southport and away to Kent as well. I just feel like Goldsworthy has that ability to be the firefighter for us down the order. Bartlett is maybe more likely to be part of the collapse than to stave off the collapse.
I think that if they brought Steve Davis back, I think it is likely to be, because to be fair, there's been no second team cricket, so
yeah, it was totally washed out at Taunton. They're supposed to be playing Glamorgan last week, and it was a total washout, no play at all over the 4 days.
So obviously Sean Dixon hasn't had a chance to put his name back in the hat, and the second 11 going to T20, start their T20 stuff on Friday. So I think that the chances of Sean Dixon getting in contention is maybe not going to happen. So I think they'll stick with Steve Davis. I think the one thing I'd say about Lords is it's likely to be hopefully a bit bowler friendly than some of the pitches playing on recently. So yeah, Lewis Goldsworthy for me, I think, is a good option to help. Hopefully, I think we all want to see a game that's over, and I think we're a bit bored of draws and things. So it'd be nice to if there is a bit of spice in the wicket, and therefore if there is, then Lewis Goldsworthy, will be someone who hopefully can grit it out and really fight, and it actually might be really tricky against the new ball there. So. I think someone like Goldsworthy down the order to kind of really grind it out would be a good option.
Yeah, so we have a pretty well rested seam attack now. So the table of the LV County Championship Division 1 table, Somerset are Kent and Northants behind Somerset on 39 and 35 points respectively. Somerset on 44. Then a really congested. What are we there? Third down to 8th. Hampshire on 57. Notts on 57. Essex 53. Middlesex 48. Lancashire 46. Somerset 44. All teams have played 5 games. So, if results go our way, we could potentially be third. Not sure if the maths quite works on that, but we could certainly have a meteoric rise up that table very, very quickly. Surrey on 82 and Warwickshire on 79. They're both on 3 games, are sitting first and second, and looking to run away with it as the table develops as we move into the last block of this opening round of Championship games. Good day at Taunton yesterday, Ben. We had the Somerset Disability 11 against their Gloucestershire counterparts. Started at 10:30. Then we had the Women's Regional T20 playoffs, which I gather Somerset have got their first bit of silverware of the season.
They have, yeah. It was a really good day yesterday. The weather was good. I think it was a bit of concern in the days leading up to it with the wet weather we've been having. But great to have a nice day at the Cooper Associates County Ground. Yeah, fantastic sort of occasion. Really, fair few people in to watch, which was nice. And Somerset women were dominant in the final. They won by 9 wickets, chasing about 115, I think it was. Daisy Jeans batted brilliantly in the run chase. So well overdue. Somerset women haven't played under lights at the ground before. The disability team had never played on the ground before. So long overdue sort of occasion, but nonetheless a really really good day.
As our de facto women's cricket correspondent, Dan, what did you sort of keep an eye on it while you're up at Old Trafford?
Yeah, I had an eye on it. Yeah, as Ben said, it was 2 fairly comprehensive wins for Somerset, wasn't it? Really, because there was the semis at Taunton Vale earlier in the day as well. But yeah, it looked like a good day. And hopefully Somerset now. Well, we know that Somerset have 4 50-over games scheduled for this year. I just hope that a few more games are scheduled as well. Maybe some of the T20s that were washed out could be maybe rescheduled as friendlies. Because I just think it's just such a thin schedule for them. And Daisy Jeans, as Ben mentioned, she was the star of the day one of the stars of the day yesterday. She's one of those players who isn't in the Western Stormers squad, but is too old to be in their academy. And it's players like her that rely on county cricket really for that high level of cricket that's higher than club cricket. So, we're letting her and players like her down if we don't play more throughout the season. And it's the same across. It's not just a Somerset thing. The women's county cricket is very, the one official competition is done. It's compressed to the first 6 weeks of the season, and now it's down to the counties to sort themselves out. And most regions have a little competition with their own counties in it, but it's not many matches really. So I just hope that counties start to schedule more games and have it really throughout the season as it used to be before 2020.
Don't know about the logistics of this, but is that something that you could just add on before some of the Blast games? I know everything's kind of.
So I actually had a chat about this with the coaching staff recently about kind of if there are any plans, and I think it is incredibly tough it's the players' availability more than anything, and also the kind of. The matches in terms of the pitches that they'll need, so I think they are looking at it and trying to find some solution. I think their primary concern at the moment is telling ECB to make more of the fact that the women's games are at the start of the season, and if there is rain around like there has been, it can completely curtail it. So I think they're trying to make more strategic moves into ECB related competitions, whilst trying to find some solution internally. But it is very, very, very challenging to get a game on with everything else that goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of looking. We've obviously got the Western Storm doubleheader on May the 28th before the member played Glamorgan. But I suppose at a late stage you couldn't say, for example, let's organise a women's T20 before the Essex game on June the 4th. That would just be.
It's quite an interesting example. Is that the players don't train? There's no training. There's no pre-nets. They literally rock up and play. That is unfortunately, it's not right, and this will no doubt develop over. But at the moment, there's no provision for them even to have a net, let alone having. And that's not a Somerset thing. That's player availability. They all work across the southwest. They all have full-time jobs. So there are bits and bobs that Somerset are trying to do to help. And then Kieran, who's their coach, is coming recently and is absolutely brilliant. He's so determined to make Somerset women bigger. But it is a really, really difficult task with the logistics around scheduling and availability and finances. That's the other thing. There's a lack of funding coming down from the ECB in this space. So there's a lot being moved into lots of investment in Western Storm, and lots of great things happening in this space. But as Dan mentioned, there is definitely a gap in centralised support for women's domestic county cricket.
So it's kind of first off the international players were sort of centrally contracted and professional. Then that's gradually filtered down to the regional Western Storm and their equivalents, and also the other lot in the competition that shall not be named. And now it's just, again, it just needs to kind of filter down that next level, I guess, to the counties.
Yeah, there's definitely work to be done in that regard.
Happy days. Right, so listeners' questions then. I explicitly put an embargo on anything about the declaration, so we should be quite quick with these tonight. Where do we start then? Bit of controversy from Lord Lupin about who was being economical with the truth about whether Glenn Chappell was being honest when he said that no offer was made. I suppose it's all a bit of he said, she said.
Did he actually say Chappell actually explicitly said no offer was made?
No, he didn't. He didn't say that. He said they were made an offer, but it was completely, out of the question. I heard the whole interview, and he was quite forthright, but not unfair. And I think, as we go back to, can't remember who said it now, but they were talking to Lancashire about Lancashire declaring their first innings before 110 overs were up, and it just wasn't on. And Lancashire still had hopes of winning the game, given the fragility of Somerset's top order. Anyway, we've talked enough about that.
Right. AK writes, is it time we moved on from Bartlett and gave his opportunities to Goldsworthy, Banton and George Thomas? Interesting name cropping up there. Feelings of its deja vu with his modes of dismissal. How much longer should we persist with Kerr as head coach? Better to sack too early than too late. Ben, should we sack Jason Kerr?
I'd like to be on the team bus on Wednesday.
Fair enough. And obviously, well, I think we talked about bringing Goldsworthy in. I mean, it's the how long is a piece of string question. I mean, what specifically are you kind of blaming the powers that be for the failures that are going on the field? It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, cricket is slightly different into most team sports. As it is very much your responsibility when you're out there. You should know your own game. You should know what to do. And if you run down the wicket and try to smash Saqib Mahmood into the building site and york yourself, that's not. I'm not saying that. It's a little bit unfair to TKC there, but the general point kind of stands is. Well, I don't know what point I'm trying to make, really. I've kind of rambled on a little bit there.
Didn't tell TKC to do that, did they?
No, they didn't, but they have potentially given him carte blanche to play with freedom. I don't know. I mean, the only slight reservation, I don't know if that's even the right word about Jason Kerr, is that he was a bowler. And our bowling unit over the last, however many years has generally been very, very good. So I don't know if he needs the batting coach. We have appointed one who was doing really well, seems to be doing really well and getting the ship in order, and then he's left, and we've got a new batting coach now. I admit it does, has very, very good credentials.
Nice bloke. Interviewed him on Thursday evening, and I was very impressed.
Yeah,
nice chap.
He's a very impressive guy, Shane Berger. Yeah, he looks like a very good appointment.
Yes,
yeah. And we've got 19-year-old kid James Rue has come through. He's leading run scorer of the championship, albeit about 60 of those runs were in slightly less than challenging circumstances on Sunday. But you still got to score them. So I don't know. I mean, it's
just on James Rue. I thought the fact that he didn't celebrate his century in the second innings was very much a plus point in his favour. I thought good for you, and he didn't. Neither of them actually tried to exploit the joke bowling. They could have made hay and hit it all over the place, but it was a shame. It was all a little bit shamefaced, but even so, I think credit to James Rue for his politeness, his courtesy,
his reservations in the good West Country manners of a good public school boy. What point was I trying to make? Yeah. I mean, I suppose it kind of boils down to what would you like Jason Kerr to do? How would you like him to do it? And when would you like him to do it by?
I don't know. I'm not qualified to comment. I'm not a cricket coach.
Well,
he's a nice guy.
Kerr and Harry took over at the start of 20, and we then came second twice in the championship, came second in the Bob Willis Trophy. We've also reached finals day 3 times under them. We won the Royal London Cup in 2019. So we have had a lot of success, and particularly in the first 3 years, we did really well. Clearly, 2021, 22, 23, we have not been as good. But the question is, and I don't know the answer, is are Kerr and Hurry the reason for that, or part of the reason for that? Then if we get rid of them, will things start to improve again? I don't know the answer, and it's not for me. Yeah, I don't. It's not for me to decide. That's for the club and people around the club, the CEO, etc. To, that's for them to sort of investigate. And I'm sure it's constantly under review, isn't it? It's Gordon Hollins, I'm sure, has keeps these things ticking over and making sure that you know what I mean.
Yeah,
that nothing going wrong, in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that we've not had the success of the sort of the, like you say, the 18, 19, 20 seasons. What specifically has happened then? Well, I suppose we've lost. Hildy has declined in those years, I suppose. Marcus has left as well. So, you've lost 2 of your all-time greats. If you say, you're going to lose 2 players who have got buildings named after them at the ground, they are that good, and you've got to lose those. You are not going to replace players like that overnight. Jamie Overton has left. Don Bess has left. Don Bess potentially
certainly is
not.
The young players, the young homegrown players, Lammonby, Green, Goldsworthy, Banton, Bartlett, haven't made the sort of progress over the last 3 or 4 years that we would have been hoping for. Now, I don't know whether that's a coaching problem or not, but you have to look at that and think why haven't they trained on, if you like, in sort of racehorse terms. They came into the game. George Bartlett got his first century for Somerset at Old Trafford. Was it 2018? And that's 5 years ago. And he honestly isn't a much better player now than he was 5 years ago. And you could say the same for Tom Banton, who's actually sort of gone backwards. And you have to ask the question: is that a coaching problem, or is it something else? So I don't blame people for asking the questions, but I'm not qualified to say whether they're the right people or not. And I think it would be quite wrong to start changing horses in midstream and making changes in the middle of a championship season when we've got trophies to win. And review it at the end of the season.
Yeah,
by people who know more about the game than I do,
and me, and Dan, and Ben as well, which is not insulting, but I think it's we can sit here and we can only kind of observe what we see. I mean, just looping back to that point about Jason being a bowler. If you, it'd be lovely if you had someone in that dressing room like Marcus, who, for example, or even Hildy. I mean, you've lost. Think of the experience that is lost from that dressing room for somebody like Bartlett or Banton to sit down, just have a coffee with Hildy in the corner of the dressing room, talk about struggles, overcoming those, getting your head straight, what mental approaches you've had, all those things. I think we're batting. Anybody can read a textbook and get your batting technique sorted, but I think it's the mental aspect of getting a real high performer in your ear, or having a high performer available to talk to and just get those, pick those good habits up from. So I think that's possibly the only thing that I would say is missing from the setup at the moment. I don't know if they have got any sort of sports psychologist available. I presume that there is somebody on call if they need to. I know there isn't one on the staff, is there, Ben? You're nodding there.
So yeah, there's various outlets available. There is a kind of an option available if the players need it. It's not full time, but a lot of the sort of science and medicine team deal with that on a day-to-day basis, and then they've got options to bring in people when people need them.
Yeah. So I don't think Jason Kerr is a bad coach by any stretch of the imagination, but I think, like I say, having that batting mentor available to the group, I think would be something that would be certainly be of value. Particularly look at the two great players that we lost in the last couple of years or so. Right. Hope you fancied that one. Okay, that was a good 15 minutes on that one. Moving on then. Sam B has got a very controversial question. Thinks that Lancashire is one of the very few counties better than us at the live stream. Has the club considered returning to BBC commentators but joined by a wider rotating cast like Vic, Triggs, Harry? Obviously doesn't enjoy my commentary. He's not put me on that list. Loved hearing Bumble with Anthony, as did I, Gibber. That was glorious to listen to. But I think it's all to do with the WPA sponsorship and the money that brings in. You just can't use the BBC when commercial partners are involved.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the Lancashire stream is very good. They put a lot of money into it, and they've got very different kind of, agendas when it comes to commercialisation and needing money and stuff like that from streaming. We kind of had to run ours at a cost neutral basis. Anything that we make from sponsorship is then used to pay for it. So fair play to Lancs TV. They definitely invested heavily and are trying to champion the domestic game through streaming, which is great. I think the footage that they get is brilliant. I think there's a lot to admire about it. But it's just worth noting that there's no commercialization on it really whatsoever. It's purely a brand awareness.
Well, they do have quite a striking backdrop for all of their studio stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say that studio.
Well known Middle Eastern airline.
Yeah.
But they're allowed to do that because, of course, the stadium is called Emirates Old Trafford. So it is a different. I agree with Bennett. It would be wonderful.
Well, Cooper Associates must have a spare meeting room. We could,
Well, I did.
As a studio. Yeah, you probably get. You could probably stretch
need
the
a sponsor like you'd need a sponsor like Emirates to make that work.
Yeah. But it's there's certainly lots of we actually involved in a streaming working group with the likes of Lancashire, Middlesex, Notts and Surrey and the like. So we're constantly kind of picking each other's brains and trying to move things forward. We're just trying to move ours forward with a tenth of the budget, which it's very good.
Yeah, you talked about ours being cost neutral. I suspect Lancashire's is probably costing them an arm and a leg. So for the return on investment, I think
costing their sponsors an arm and a leg. I think, but I think their sponsors can probably afford it.
Yeah, definitely. I think our return on investment, our viewers per pound, is absolutely smashing Lancashire's at the moment. So well done, Ben. Good question from Bagster. Should Craigo and indeed the club be getting involved in silly scraps on social media? It's not a good look and verges on bringing the game into disrepute. So this is obvious reference to Craigo popping back at the Lancashire admin for suggesting that Somerset were fun at parties.
Well, it's also the Jimmy Anderson drop at Taunton, which went down very, very badly in Lancashire.
Did it really? I just don't understand the issue with that. It was just a clip of something that happened in the match.
I think it was the caption rather than the clip. I think if you
were apologetic in the caption.
We called him the greatest bowler of all time in the caption. The guys we spoke with the guys at Lancashire before we put that out, so they were more than comfortable. They are very. Lancashire are very loud on their social channels with regards to bits and pieces that they do, which are quite out there. I think the Craig Overton tweet gave information that
there was
it's adding something to the debate, and I think whether you agree with it or not, I think that's what social media can do is give people information that they might not get in other forms of media. So I think sometimes there's a delicate situation. I wouldn't say it was anywhere near bringing the game into disrepute. I think that's maybe a slightly strong sort of term, but I understand people who think that social media shouldn't be used for that sort of thing. But from my side, I think it was all done pretty tastefully yesterday.
Yeah, so the actual wording was, we came at you with a reasonable offer yesterday afternoon to make a game of it, yet you declined. Sad face emoji. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. There's no... Yeah, he does like a pop on social media, does Craig. Not like it's just stuff like that is where, I think he said it last year when, Craig's injured. He goes, no, I'm not. Blah, 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 wherever you had that from. And Jamie as well. So it's obviously a trait that runs in the Overton family. And Mark has a good go as well, doesn't he? So,
lastly, on the Jimmy Anderson thing, it's worth noting the ECB also put that video out, and so it's not just us.
Yeah, I cannot fathom why Lancashire didn't like the Anderson. Why people wouldn't like the Anderson video?
There isn't much loss. There isn't much love lost between Somerset and Lancashire, and anything like that is touching a very sore spot.
But it's not like we doctored the video. It's just something that objectively happened in the match.
Put the Benny Hill theme music on it or anything like that. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I could be an unofficial renegade social media ambassador.
As we possibly could.
One more point as well. We always say we don't want players to be robots in interviews, etc. And Craig was, Craig was being himself on social media, and I think that's a good thing. So,
yeah, couldn't agree more. So we've done Bagster. Harry Hayden says, are we perceived as lacking ambition? Why? I think we could spend 3 or 4 hours on that, Harry. I don't know what this is in relation to particularly. Presumably it's to do with the lack of declaration and speedy scoring towards the dying embers of the Lancashire game.
Do you remember that game against Hampshire at Taunton 2 years ago?
Oh, was that the one where if we drew...
We could have set up
That was the Bob Willis group one, wasn't it? Where you had all those funny permutations about if we won, Gloucester would have gone through with us, and because Gloucester had beaten us, they would have taken more points. No,
it was just a straightforward game against Hampshire when we had the opportunity to set up a finish and again decided against it and settled for a draw when we were in potentially a position to win it. So this is the second time it's happened in recent years, the Lancashire one.
Not 2020.
I think Shep's right though. In that 2021 game was
Bartlett got
2021. It was 2021. You're quite right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that funny Bob Willis thing, wasn't it, with the 3 conferences?
Yeah. It was the county championship, but yeah.
Oh yeah. So we'd beaten Hampshire at the Aegeus Bowl.
That's right.
And we wanted Hampshire to go through with us, and if Hampshire drew, they would have gone. Oh, sorry. If you listened to the exact same podcast 2 years ago, where we spent about an hour debating this, so Hampshire would have gone. If Hampshire drew, they would have gone through ahead of Gloucester, and that would have benefited us in that September group stage. But if we'd beaten Hampshire, Gloucester would have gone through. But then, because Gloucester had beaten and drawn with us, I think didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we didn't want Gloucester to go through, so a draw was the better result for us.
Well, I don't think it was ever explicitly said, but it was kind of assumed, wasn't it? I think that might be part of the thinking.
But we could have won the game. That's the point. We were in a position to win it.
Yeah, but if we had won it and Gloucester would have gone through, we wouldn't have had that
so what?
surge in September where we lost 4 games in a row.
You shouldn't worry about other teams. You should just go out and win every game.
No, I think you have to look at the globality of the competition. You have to look at everything in the whole.
That wasn't the official explanation anyway.
Oh, well, they're never going to say that, are they? Right.
No.
Just to go back to yesterday's game, slightly more relevant.
You go back to an even further game, Dan. Let's go back to the Gillette Cup final, 1981.
So, yeah, Harry's question about lacking ambition. I do think we went into this game probably happy with a draw. And I think the way we batted for a long part of day 2, was it day 2 when we were batting very slowly?
Yeah.
It was day 2, wasn't it? Indicated that, I think, to me as well. But equally, if we had, tried to really take the game by the scruff of the neck, scored quickly enough to put us in a position to potentially win, we may have ended up losing and, collapsed in a heap. So who knows what would have happened? We would have said, oh, why didn't we just, rein it back a bit and be happy.
We went along at 2 runs and over. Again, Glen Chappell was being very critical. Against an attack minus its main force on a flat pitch. It wasn't great. It really wasn't great.
Andy Cleave was just tweeted in actually while we were recording. Sean Dixon got 65 for
Cleveland.
For Cleveland at the weekend. So I'm not sure how much that. But there is plenty of Somerset players.
Against the mighty Bridgewater, though. Against the mighty Bridgewater, who wiped the floor with Taunton St Andrews last weekend.
It is good that all these Somerset players are around the Shires at the minute. I think we are done. Oh, ex-Grumpy Git. Who owns with Lammers? I'd like Banton given a chance. Will Lewis Goldsworthy given his chance? I doubt it as Hurry/Kerr. Don't want either of the side judging by selection choices over last season. I think we've covered all that. Dan, I think we might be at a good statistical, setting a statistical record on Thursday.
Oh, really?
We could be potentially leaving out 2 players who have scored 100 in their most recent county championship innings.
We could be.
We could be leaving out Banton and Aldridge.
Yeah.
So has anyone ever done that before? I know the West Indies left out. There was one guy that played a one test for the West Indies who got 100 and then never played again.
Boycott was left out for England for scoring too slowly. And Ken Barrington before him as well.
Cool. I'm glad you weren't commentating on Gibbo.
So
I'm glad you weren't doing a podcast after the fact a day or two later. Right, that was my stat that I wanted to finish on. Any other business?
Western Storm play at Taunton on Sunday in a single header against Thunder. So hopefully people will attend if they can.
Is that a T20? Is that a T20 or a 50 over?
Yeah, so it's the Harry Flint Trophy. The first batch of games.
Oh yeah, the second block of that into the end of the season, is it?
Well, it's just before the 100. There's a few games just before the 100, and then at the end of the season, there's a few more games. Yeah, but so Storm had a no result with the Blaze last week, which was a shame because they were in a pretty good position actually before it got rained off. But yeah, they start their Charlotte Edwards Cup campaign on Friday away to Northern Diamonds at Headingley, and then host Thunder at Taunton on Sunday at 2:30. Tickets are pretty cheap, I think. So hopefully, hopefully there'll be some a good attendance in.
Members free for that one.
Members in free. £10 for adults, £5 for kids. So
happy days. And I assume streamed as well if you can't make it.
Yeah, I got last one from Mike Unwin.
Oh,
probably too late. But why do the men get 2 shirts, batting and bowling, with names, and the women get 1 without names?
Oh yeah, your brother was on about this, wasn't he, Dan?
Yes, well, he was on about why they don't have names on the back of their shirts.
Yeah.
They have numbers but no names.
Surely the question should be, why do the men have a batting and a bowling shirt, not the other way around? But anyway, yeah, I mean, probably...
We agree with Mike Unwin and Dan Kingdom that the women ought to have the names on their shirts.
I think they ought to as well, yeah.
Well, I think Ben Warren can be asked to action that.
Yeah, again, it's something that they... could have been done. It's not we as the cricket club don't manage that process. But it's something that was slightly disappointing to see on the stream yesterday. That the back of the shirts were blank. So yeah, again, it's again, I'm not trying to sort of pull any punches here. It is cost. A lot of this stuff is cost. The women, Somerset women, have got a budget of a ridiculously small budget. It's peanuts. So anything that goes in, and the lot has gone in this year that we've taken out of other budgets to plough into Somerset women, which is great. But there is only so many limitations of what we can take out of certain pots and put into other pots. So
I have an idea, and this is a sensible idea. When it comes to membership, no, this is a very sensible idea. When it comes to membership renewal time in the autumn, little tick box, would you like to add £5 onto your membership to help support Somerset women's cricket? There we go. Told you that was cool.
Yeah. Well, everyone's membership money does already go towards...
but this is an extra £5, which could happily... And I'd check, Somerset County Sports charges £10 for shirt printing, so it could do half a name and half a number.
You can already do that. You can already
donate you 6 on the back.
So you can already donate to the Somerset Cricket Foundation on your membership purchase, and not many do.
I didn't do that because I would have done.
There's a little tick box on your membership online to donate to the foundation every year, and they get about 50 quid from it.
Well, I didn't. If I had seen it, I probably would have done it. So, bit bigger.
Just a quick question then. So Somerset Cricket Foundation, they effectively run Somerset Women, don't they?
So it's changed a bit. So yeah, the foundation and the club are now sort of slightly more amalgamated to ensure that the professional outlets are dealt with in different. But yeah, essentially the foundation are more in control of it than we are.
Is that the same across all counties, do you think, in terms of the board or the foundation?
Yeah. There's a lot of movement in terms of Western Storm's involvement with professional cricket clubs, and so there's probably a whole new podcast in how that kind of can shape out over the next couple of years. But at the moment, Somerset Women are very much an amateur team that are under the foundation's umbrella, and anything that we step in and support them with is to just help, essentially. And it's we've tried to help as much as we possibly can this year, both financially and through things like hosting games under lights, but it's quite difficult when there's nothing coming in the other side in terms of revenue, sponsorship, or those alike. So it is something that I think needs more central support. Again, I can't say the numbers, but it would shock everyone to know how little Somerset Women receive off the ECB.
I think I know, and it's not great.
That seems a rather depressing note to end on. Happy days. Right.
Yeah.
Best of luck to Tom Abel and the boys. Ben, you're on the bus to Lords, so looking forward to your little video. You like doing your little videos of behind the scenes at Lords and all that sort of thing. So looking forward to that. Gib, I gather you and Sam Dalling at Lords, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh dear, that's going to be a horrendous Somerset bias on BBC Radio London.
Well, he's supposed to be the Middlesex commentator.
Wow. Oh, he just, Moonlight spends 90% of his time down at Taunton commentating on the live stream, and obviously doing a bit of always look on the bright side of life as well. So good to hear. I shall be syncing you and Sam up with the Middlesex live stream around about 11 o'clock on Thursday morning. Best of luck to Tom Abel and the boys up at Lords. Hopefully we can record our first victory of the season. Hopefully the pitch has a bit in it for Somerset's newly revitalised seam attack, and James Rue will return with another pair of hundreds. We live in hope. Been a pleasure, gents. Catch up next week.
Cheers, Sheps. Cheers.
Cheers all. Have a good week.